We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it's Sunday. I'm recording it Friday night, though, and we're going to do a little live on Substack. It's been a little while since I've done that. So I wanted to get back here and talk to the folks on Substack. There's always a good crowd of folks. They've always got some good insights, some good perspectives, and they love to interact. So that's perfect for what we're trying to do here with Substack and doing these lives. And one of the most important reasons for doing this is everybody says, "What can we do? What can we do?" And it's one of the most important things we can do is continue to talk about this stuff and get that information out that's valuable that maybe some people don't know. I can't do anything on my own, but if I can get it out to people, information or what have you, or perspectives on things, and they can pass it on to other people, that's how we make some headway in this current shit show that we're currently in. And frankly, it seems to get worse every day. All the things we've seen as of late are pretty troubling. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that they would go on this long. I honestly believe that when Donald Trump was elected president, that there would be some guardrails, that the Republicans would push back at some point. But that hasn't been the case. Just hasn't been the case. A lot of cowardice on the Republican side, and this is going to be something that costs them quite a lot when Donald Trump is finally dead and gone and out of power, because these people are going to have to answer for all the crimes and corruption that Donald Trump committed. And since he won't any longer be able to be held accountable, those people that helped him, assisted him, and supported him, they will be the ones that will have to be accountable. I don't know that they realize it yet, but they're putting themselves in a bad situation, from the members of ICE to the members of Congress who have pushed these ridiculous ideas and this criminal behavior. Somebody's going to have to pay for that, and it will come. James says he's from New Jersey. Hey, New Jersey, how you doing? I'm in Minnesota. It's about 10:37 my time, recording this live Substack, and then I'm going to record this and put it on for the podcast on Sunday because I'm a little lazy, and if I can avoid doing another recording between now and then, maybe I can go out and take a night off or whatever. So anyway, here's the point. A lot of you folks are showing up as you always do, and I appreciate it immensely. We need you to interact, ask questions, make comments, whatever you want to do. What you have to say is certainly as important as anything I have to say. I'm here to just kind of stir the shit, so to speak. So feel free to join in, ask questions. And if I can't answer it, chances are there's somebody in the crowd that can answer it. One news story I'll bring up that is not politics related, and that, of course, is we finally got a decision on the Sean Diddy Combs thing. He was finally sentenced to prison. Some people thought he'd get off. Some people thought he'd get 11 years. He got 4 years, just over 4 years, 50 months. And while that's not as much as a lot of people think that he should get, I mean, he is a huge piece of shit. He's committed heinous crimes, and he should be put in prison for life. But that was never going to happen because he's rich and famous, and we know that those people get special allowances. But the fact that he's going to be away for 4.5 years is a nice start. Hopefully this will set his mind straight. Hopefully he'll understand his misdeeds. So Sean Diddy Combs, not looking good if you look at the drawings and stuff from the trial. A little gray, a little old, a little decrepit. He'll be in the slam for another 48 months. Okay. Spacer says, what do you think of this Argentina nonsense? Yeah, I don't know all of what I should know about Argentina, but I know that Donald Trump sent them $20 billion to bail them out, which I find ironic given that Donald Trump's whole premise when he was running for re-election was America first. You want to send $20 billion to Argentina for whatever reason to help your buddy, your friend, or what have you. But you don't want to pay for people's health care. You don't want to subsidize ACA, in spite of the fact that 75% of the country support it, including MAGA folks. I don't know what to make of it. It's gotta be another grift. Everything Donald Trump does is something, that will ultimately benefit him, so there must be something going on there where Donald Trump benefits. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but it certainly isn't America first, and it's certainly not something we should be doing. Vincent says justice didn't stop for the Nazi guards in those camps after WW1. No, they did not. And the idea of saying, "Well, I was just following orders," that doesn't work. That's not accepted. We had the Nuremberg trials. A lot of people said that. A lot of people got convicted and were punished. And I was suggesting, when I was a little kid, grade school, maybe 6th grade, I remember I was reading in the Weekly Reader, and I was reading about a guy by the name of Simon Wiesenthal. Simon Wiesenthal, they did a TV movie about him too, maybe even a regular movie. But Simon Wiesenthal was a Holocaust survivor. And then in later years, he became a Nazi hunter. And there are a lot of people that were out there hunting Nazis. Now, they caught up with Nazis decades later when they were 90 years old, and they still put them in prison. My point was that with all these ICE members that think they can cover their faces and do whatever they want because Donald Trump told them it's okay, they're going to fuck around and find out because it's not okay. It is illegal. And when Donald Trump is no more, there are going to have to be some accountability for people like this. And maybe there'll be some job openings for ICE hunters after this is all said and done. Modern day Simon Wiesenthals. James says Trump has been MIA since the shutdown. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? He was at the generals meeting. He didn't look good. He looked slow. He looked um, kind of low energy. He wasn't making any sense. He looked kind of goofy. And I think people realized around him that that was not a good optic. So maybe they're hiding him for a little while and see if he can recover and come out looking better. But you're absolutely right. He's been MIA since the shutdown. We've been seeing these ridiculous posts, these memes and such on the post, and they're just fucking ridiculous at this point. Um, I got to believe with Donald Trump, he isn't very healthy. So what's probably happening, they go out there short bursts, they show him for a bit, and then they try to get him to recover somehow, pumping him full of drugs, giving him rest and relaxation, or whatever the fuck it is. It was ironic. I saw Carolyn Levitt was talking about Donald Trump, and she said, everybody knows that Donald Trump is working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to make this country better. Yeah, no, I don't think he's doing that. He's golfing at least 2 to 3 times a week, so not 24/7. Um, James says, "What is the conversation around the New Jersey governor?" Honestly, I don't know. If anybody's got some information about that, please, put that in the comments, and we'd love to hear that. I have heard some things about the governor, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember what that was all about. Um Jillian says, I'm really getting sick of MAGA blaming the Dems for the shutdown. I'm more happy for them to lose their health care and to get what they voted for. But they will take me and those I love down with them, and I can't support that. Well, I will tell you this, Jillian. I've been looking at some polling on some of the stations and such, and it's pretty clear that the vast majority of the people, even the vast majority of MAGA, are blaming Donald Trump and the Republicans for the shutdown. So that's the good news. They're going to try to blame the Democrats, but it's just not working. Doesn't make any sense. The Republicans hold the majority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and to suggest the Democrats aren't are responsible for this is ridiculous. And as far as what Donald Trump is suggesting about the Democrats being wrong about this and giving health care to illegal immigrants, that's just categorically not true. It's not true at all. It's a flat out lie. And 75% of MAGA likes ACA. So this isn't going to work out well for them if they try to get what they want and then they start taking away health care from their own people. But you're right. If he's allowed to do this, then he's going to take a lot of us with the Republicans. That's why the Democrats need to do what they're doing. They need to stand up, push back, and not give up. This is the one time when the Democrats can't wimp out like they've always done before. They need to stand up and push back and make sure that they win this one. I saw Robert Reich talking the other day. He's a former labor secretary for Bill Clinton, and he's on TikTok and such. Very smart man. And he said he thinks the way the shutdown is going to end is when the air traffic controllers start getting tired of not getting paid because they're not getting paid, calling in sick, less and less people coming in. And when you've got no air traffic controllers, you've got no flights going, and that's going to shut down the country if there is no flights. He thinks that's how it's going to end up happening. And I don't know that that's true, but he's the smartest guy I know with regards to these type of topics. So I'll take that. Spacer says we need to take notice of 3 senators who wanted to break and vote for the Republican. C.R. Masto, Fetterman, and King. Yes. I think you're right about that. At this point, we can probably expect nothing good from any Republicans. But we do need to take special note of those Democrats that don't behave like Democrats want them to behave. They basically serve at our pleasure in terms of elections and such. Fetterman needs to fucking go. Fetterman needs to go, and there needs to be a better quality of people in terms of the Democratic Party in our Congress. We've got people doing fucked up things. And I'm sitting here and I'm doing this right now, and the comments went away, and now they're back. Vincent said, "Did the chat disappear again?" Yeah, it did. We had a bunch of questions there. So if I haven't answered your question yet, please resubmit it because I can't see it now. Once the chats disappear, it erases everything, and then it comes back. So I've got a couple people up now: Vincent, Carly Kane, Linda Sanford. Thank you for joining. We're asking that everybody interact. This is the kind of thing we need is people interacting with the conversation here. That makes everything a little bit more interesting. I don't know if you heard, there is an FBI agent. I don't know what his title was, but he was recently fired because he was supposed to try to set up a perp walk for Comey. And the idea of perp walking a former FBI director was a little distasteful, not to Donald Trump, of course, but to this FBI agent. He said, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." And so he was fired. It's going to be interesting to see if they get anybody to try to perp walk Comey. That would be interesting. Gillian says, "Not sure what happened to Fetterman, but he should have been gone months ago." Yeah, he should have been. I don't know if there is any particular function for doing that other than not reelecting him, but he went through some things. He's gone through some emotional problems, some depression problems, some physical problems, and he's changed his thought process. There's something totally off there, and it's not just in politics. We're hearing that as people are talking about some irrational behavior, anger issues while he's driving and stuff. This guy isn't well. I don't know that there's a 25th Amendment for senators, but there should be, and he should be taken out of his position, because whether he's voting for Democrat or Republican, he's not in his right mind. What are your thoughts of the Illinois governor calling on the 25th Amendment? You're talking about J.B. Pritzker, and he suggested after that meeting with the generals that the Republicans should go after the 25th Amendment and replace Donald Trump because he's not well. He's not in good shape. I think that was the right thing to say. I don't think it's going to accomplish anything in terms of getting these Republicans to do it, but somebody had to put that in the narrative. Somebody had to have the courage to say it. And J.B. Pritzker, pretty courageous guy, pretty good governor, and probably a pretty good candidate for president come 2028. Um, it's like how Donald Trump does things. He puts things in the narrative, and then it slowly builds and slowly builds. So Pritzker did that to put it in the conversation, so to speak. And I think it was a great idea. And again, the chat disappeared. We had a couple of good questions I was going to read, and boom, they're gone. Substack, you need to straighten this shit out. I need people to interact, and it's not helping that you're disappearing the comments. It's like fucking ICE is overseeing Substack at this point. Vincent says Nazi concentration camp guard Joseph Schultz, age 101, was charged with war crimes for 5 years in June 2022. He died in April 11th of 2023. Yeah, exactly. They were catching up with Nazis well into their 80s, 90s, and in this case, 100. And they deserved what they got. There is no accountability. There is no period of time that we can forget about what happened during the Holocaust. And this is going to be the same thing for ICE. I mean, there are horrible things going on. We're hearing about ICE in Chicago pulling out of kids out of homes. They're naked or in pajamas or whatever. They're doing it all so that they can kind of draw in their parents. I saw something in Chicago where where were they at? I don't know if they were at an airport or whatever, but they grabbed this guy who appeared to be of Asian descent, but he was also an alderman in Chicago. He's a political figure. He was a citizen, and they grabbed him too. They are so blatant about what they do, they don't care if they're wrong. I mean, you would think that people would try to think twice before they were wrong about something and not embarrass themselves. But they're a lot like Donald Trump. They don't really care. They uh, shoot first and then ask questions later, and they continually look silly. Our problem here is, though, that a lot of these people should be indicted, prosecuted, and punished. But unfortunately, we have DOJ that's been compromised. We have Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, who won't do anything that would be perceived as working against Donald Trump's plan. Donald Trump's plan is fucking absolutely crazy, stupid. We're seeing what it's doing to the country. We're seeing what it's doing to the people. The polls tell us nobody likes it, including Republicans, yet he continues to do it. And he continues to do it because there's one group of people that could stop him. It's not the DOJ. It's not the Supreme Court. There's one group of people that could put a stop to this right now, this minute. That is the Republicans in Congress. They could stop it in a minute. If Republican senators and members of the House had enough courage, they could walk in and say, look, you're going to get impeached. You don't straighten this shit out. Donald Trump might want to double down and fight back, but at least they would have some leverage over him. But the Republicans are too cowardice to do anything at this point. Rita says it might help to weaken the regime if we could hold back buying anything but essentials until they're gone. That's a good point. You know, people always say to me, what can we do? We can't do anything. We're just the little people. And that is definitely untrue. If you look at what's gone on up to this point, take a look at the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Jimmy Kimmel thing, people were outraged by the fact that they just plucked him out of there and fired him because Donald Trump didn't like it. They called it a suspension. And so we all stood up, put pressure on Disney, and in 72 hours, we fixed that. That shows what kind of strength we have here. And if we pointed at other people, like with this shutdown and with these potential firings, Russ Vought, the director of the Office of Budget Management, he's the new Elon Musk. We need to go after him. I mentioned this in Wells Live. Japan arrested the leader of the Unification Church, a far-right nationalist church with ties to people like Shinzo Abe and other Asian leaders or officials. You might remember the Shinzo Abe assassination, which drew a a light to this. But aside this point, I wonder how religious leaders in the U.S. will contend with the justice that will come after Trump is gone. It also shows, it disappeared again. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with Substack. Substack, you need to get better. You need to get better. You mentioned the Unification Church. If I go way back, um, if I go way back, weren't they tied to the Moonies too at the same point? Anyway, this thing came back. Assassination which drew light to this, but aside this point, I wonder how religious leaders in the U.S. will contend with the justice that will come after Trump is gone. It also shows when people are desperate, they will do anything, which is scary thought, but is becoming more inevitable. Well, this is what we've always said. When people have nothing to lose, they can afford to be crazy. And we're quickly getting to that point. People are struggling. People are losing their health care. You got kids suffering, people starving, people not being afford things. Fuck, they put 750,000 people on furlough today because of the shutdown. You can say whatever you want as Donald Trump that everything's great, but there are real people suffering real problems out there. And that won't wear well. That won't wear well. Did everyone see that the T. Rump and Epstein statue is back up? I did hear that. We had that statue of Trump and Epstein in the mall in Washington, D.C. Then, of course, they took it down, but apparently it's back up. I like the energy there. I like that because this is something that gets under Donald Trump's skin and it annoys the hell out of him. I'm sure they're going to take it down again, but they'll just put it back up. James, this isn't Trump's plans. He's just a puppet. Yeah, well, that's true. Chat disappears again. Fucking A. Anyway, you're absolutely right. And I've talked about this before. Some people seem to think that Donald Trump is this evil genius that has these crazy, insidious strategies that he's coming up with. That's not true. Donald Trump is an idiot. He's a dumb man. There's people around him that have these ideas and these plans, and they're feeding it to him. And because he's easily manipulated, he does their bidding. So the problem with these ideas aren't Donald Trump directly. He's the one that initiates them, but it's the people around him. And that's something we've got to consider. Somebody like Stephen Miller. This is a criminal motherfucker. This is a sick mind. This is one guy we need to get out of the mix. James says he's so dumb he doesn't know what Puerto Rico is part of the United States. What about protesting not paying federal taxes? Yeah, I don't know if not paying federal taxes is going to work, but the states have been working on something called a soft secession, where they stopped sending federal funds or state funds to the federal government. And I think that's not a bad idea. If Donald Trump is taking away services to states, it only makes sense that the states keep their money and try to provide the services for their people on their own. This would cause quite a problem for all the red states, the ones that are takers, the ones that need the help from California, Massachusetts, Minnesota, and the like. That's something they've talked about, and that's something I think the state governments have to do, not so much us. I mean, it would be hard to get everybody on board to do it to make enough of a difference. And then if we don't do that, then, you're all susceptible to prison, apparently. Vincent mentioned this in Will's Live that there was no pushback for Joy Reid, but there was for Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, I was talking about that, and I'd never thought about that. Maybe because I'm a big dumb white guy. But Old Soul mentioned that too. We have these people like Joy Reid, Don Lemon, and other people of color that were pushed out. Nobody said a word. Jimmy Kimmel gets sent out, and everybody's screaming. The difference is Jimmy's white. I don't know how much of that played into the situation, but it's certainly suspicious. It's certainly something you have to consider, and it wouldn't be the most outlandish thing that we've heard going on in this country. That's the one thing we came to realize on November 5th. At least I came to realize on November 5th. that this country is far more racist and far more sexist than I ever imagined. 49% of the people voted for Donald Trump. They voted for somebody who supports racism, sexism, misogyny, treason, and all these sorts of things. And if you support those people, you are culpable for their crimes. You are accessories after the fact. Spacer says, I hope Substack isn't censoring or if there's a MAGA out there targeting the live. I don't really have too much trouble with MAGA here. And I don't know that Substack is censoring. I think it's more likely some glitch because I've had this happen before. I don't know. It could be censoring. And if it is, I'm disappointed in Substack and will be less, we as a group will be less likely to do lives if they are in fact censoring. Let's see here. Tracy says she's tired and fed up. And I would agree. You know, that's the one thing that people have to be dealing with right now, just the fatigue of it all. There was a certain amount of fatigue during the Trump administration in the first term. Even when Joe Biden was around, there still was a fatigue. We're always talking about some ridiculous bullshit every day that Donald Trump's involved in. And there used to be a time in this country where we could get up in the morning, worry about our problems, worry about our deals, worry about our family, and focus on those things. And now it's impossible to do that because we have all this extraneous shit, this nationwide shit, these problems that Donald Trump has created. And there has to be some fatigue out there. People have to be tired of this. People have to be ready to be done with it. And I'll be honest, I thought we would be done with this long before now. I never imagined it would go this long and it would be this problematic. I assumed there would be some guardrails and some norms that would keep everything in order. But God damn it, Republicans have done absolutely nothing. Donald Trump's been allowed to do anything he wants. The only thing that's held him back are the courts. The courts coming in and stopping him from some things. But that's not before he's already caused a ruckus and chaos before he gets to that point. He's been allowed to come in here and disrupt this country on every level. And again, if you want somebody to blame for this, you can blame Donald Trump, of course. You can blame his administration, of course. But you really need to blame the Republican Party. They know better. They know this is wrong. And they could stop it very easily if they wanted to, but they choose not to. And when this is all said and done, we need to address them with regards to this, their inability to do anything when our country is being attacked. Michael says the whole intention of the Trump shutdown and additional federal firings during it is to further enrage the public. Prior to the planned October 18th mega protest, he plans to use violence. Don't think he won't have MAGA agents at protests. Yeah. You know, people keep saying that. They say he just wants everybody to get violent and call martial law and take over the country that way. And frankly, I understand how you might think that, and that might well be. But I don't see Donald Trump as having the ability to strategize and put together plans that way. You have to understand Donald Trump's personality as a narcissist. They only behave one way. Everything is emotional. Everything is reactionary. Everything he says and everything he does comes off his sick mind and out his vile mouth. And that's the total extent of any planning. He does everything haphazardly. And we know this because he continuously fails when he does this. So that may be a plan of one of the weirdos or wild people around him. I don't know that Donald Trump understands that, and that he's technically doing that. That doesn't mean they're not going after him. He doesn't have the ability. But Stephen Miller sure does, and he has an ear. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's who I'm thinking of. Somebody like Stephen Miller. This guy is a really kind of violent-minded guy, you know? It'd be kind of nice if somehow he was taken out of the equation. He is certainly a problem for this administration and all of us in this country. Um, I agree, Tracy. We need to stop reacting to everything he does. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Donald Trump thrives on attention. That's why when Pete Hegseth called this meeting, Donald Trump showed up. He couldn't stand having somebody get more attention than he is. And then, of course, he goes there and makes himself look like a fool, but he still thinks he won. Spacer says, I've been seeing videos with AOC. Apparently, Republicans have been blaming her for the shutdown because Schumer might be worried over a possible primary challenge. But she's been saying to Republicans, you want to negotiate the protest? Again, I lost it again. Yeah, they're going to blame anybody they can, but that doesn't change the fact that the polls will tell you they're blaming Donald Trump and they're blaming the Republicans, as well they should. Vincent says the media will always criminalize people of color protests, but not white people, so white people will be needed in the front line of the protest. You know, I tend to agree with you there. I do. It's a sad commentary on this country, but that's exactly right. Jillian, I feel like Trump's tweets lately are just trying to bait us. Well, they're all trying to bait us. That's what Donald Trump does. He's emotional. He needs you to react. He needs you to get scared. He needs you to be angry. That's his only strategy that he has. So you're absolutely right. Haley says, I think he's inciting violence, wants a civil war, so there won't be an election. Well, I got to tell you, if there's a civil war, Donnie better have some serious protection because he won't be safe in that situation. This was years in the making, and Heritage Foundation hit the jackpot when Trump came to the scene. He was the only one that had no problem doing anything illegal. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Donald Trump was an absolute gift to Project 2025 because he's such a easily manipulated dumb fuck that he plays right into their hands. I love big dogs. I heard Mike Johnson ask the Democrats for 4 votes against the Epstein files being released, and then they would open the government back up this weekend. I bet he did. I'll bet he did. They are terrified of the Jeffrey Epstein vote. Now, here's what you've got to understand. If they get the 218 votes and they get the discharge petition and they can go around Mike Johnson, they will vote and presumably vote to release the Epstein files. But you have to understand what's going to go on. Once it passes the House, it now has to go to the Senate. It could pass in the Senate. It might not pass in the Senate. But here's what I know for sure. Unless there's a supermajority voting for it, it's going to have to go to Trump to sign. And there ain't no way Trump is going to sign it. So what they're truly afraid of in this situation, what they're terrified of, is that they're going to have to vote and they're going to have to publicly announce what they are for. Releasing the Epstein files or not releasing the Epstein files. Now, the Republicans are going to be forced by Donald Trump to vote no. But then they have to address their constituents in the town halls and the upcoming election. They're caught in a middle between a rock and a hard place, and they don't want to do that vote. They're not quite worried about the release yet, because that's down the road. I don't know that those files will ever be released during Donald Trump's tenure as president, but they don't want to have to commit in public as to what they think. All right. Spacer says, I lost it. I'm sorry, Spacer. Go ahead, put it back in. I heard the Republicans said they will only talk with Democrats if they watch Alex Garland's Civil War movie on HBO. That sounds so stupid. You're probably right. Here's the deal. This isn't a hard one. This isn't a hard one. You continue to subsidize ACA and you don't cut as much in terms of Medicaid. It's as simple as that. And then they will cut a deal. Honestly, if I'm the Democrats, I say, look, that's the only thing that fixes it here. And we don't mind having the country continue to stay closed down because you're getting the blame. So if we have to, we'll leave this motherfucker shut down until 2026 in the midterms. Honestly, that sounds like pretty hard nose and a tough situation to put people in, but it's like everything else. You've got to hit them with something bigger. They don't want to let it go to 2026. It won't go to 2026, and there are other things that are going to put pressure on the Republicans to open things back up. Spacer says, if there is a civil war, you think Trump originally Hegseth are genius tacticians in the battlefield? Um, Please, that fight would be over quickly. Watch Alex Garland's Civil War movie. Tracy says, I heard the generals can come together and use the 25th Amendment. No, that's not how it works. Generals have nothing to do with the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment has to be initiated by the vice president and or the cabinet, and they need everybody on the cabinet to sign off on it. It's not a democratic thing. Democrats can't get involved. Generals can't get involved. It is his own cabinet. If they feel like he's not healthy enough mentally or physically to do the job, they can use the 25th Amendment. I'll be surprised if they do that. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. They're going to try to hang on to him as long as they can, as long as they feel like there is some political value in Donald Trump. I don't believe that political value is even there anymore, but for whatever reason, they don't see it. I was talking to Ed. He's on the podcast tomorrow. And no, maybe it wasn't Ed. Maybe it was Eric. I was talking to Eric. He was on the podcast today. And he said basically they may wait till the midterms when they get absolutely wiped out. And then there is no political capital with Donald Trump, and they will kick him to the curb. But there's something else they're afraid about. They're afraid by the fact that Donald Trump, on the way out, when he finally gets kicked to the curb, that he's going to burn the whole fucking thing down, and a lot of people will go with him. So there's a lot of fear on the Republican side about Donald Trump and what he might do. Spacer says, I saw Newsom passed a law that punishes colleges in California if they cave to Trump. We need to see all colleges protect students and their rights. Yeah, what is Donald Trump even doing fucking with colleges at this point? What's that got to do with anything? If Trump has brought in $17 trillion from tariffs, where's all the money? Well, that's an excellent point. And where did he get the money in the first place? I mean, that's the important thing here. He can collect as much money as he wants to collect, but it's where that money's coming from. He would like you to believe that it was coming from China and all the other countries who are paying the tariffs, but we know that's not how it's working out. That's not what's happening. The prices are higher to us, so we are paying higher prices. That's what's paying the tariffs. So, in actuality, we're paying higher taxes. We're sending the money, and that money that he has to redistribute, if he ever plans to do that, and I doubt that, would just be our money anyway. So it's fucking stupid. People who call for civil war are stupid. They don't understand what goes on in civil wars with a lack of power and medical health, food loss, and the lack of drinking water. Just look at the aftermath of the Syrian war. Yeah, a civil war, and that we're kind of in the middle of a civil war right now in what we would see current times. People think of the Civil War, they think of the 1860s, and it wouldn't be anything like that. We're not going to see that. We got a bunch of fat old guys that can't walk up the block, let alone go into civil war. Yeah, that's not going to happen that way. The Civil War will probably be more like the people of this country on the left side just shutting down everything, a general strike or protest in mass. And that's what a civil war will look at like. And in fact, we are kind of in a civil war right now. Maggots believe universities turn students liberal. Well, that's ironic because you've got a lot of members of Congress that went to college that are far right, radical, religious right pieces of shit. My question is, what is Trump getting out of this Argentina deal with Milei? Argentina does make trade agreement with China and the soybeans. What's the angle? Well, that's a good question. What is the angle? The angle has nothing to do with the United States. There is no benefit to the United States of America for this. This is likely some kind of side deal where he's putting money in his pocket, or he has a friend down there that he's trying to save, or he's trying to leverage them one way or another. But you're exactly right. We go down and we give Argentina $20 billion. And immediately after that, to thank us, what do? They cut a deal to give a better rate to China for their soybean. Now, China spent, oddly enough, about $20 billion a year on soybeans from America. Farmers made that money. And now they're buying nothing from us, nothing at all. And you got to imagine that the farmers are struggling mightily and going out of business. We're having a subtle succession. Blue states are done paying for everything only to have Trump bone them. I agree. And that may be how this civil war plays out. We just freeze them out money-wise. Donald Trump doesn't have friends unless it benefits him. Well, that goes without saying. And notice something. Donald Trump never has friends for the long term. Anybody who gets close to him starts to see the cracks, the idiocy, the unhinged behavior, and they quickly move away from him. Narcissists never have friends, close friends, for very long, if they have them at all. I mean, take a look at the first term. Everybody he hired were the best and the brightest, and then he ended up firing them all. They ended up quitting, or they all ended up in getting indicted. So, yeah, anytime you tie up with Donald Trump and you think you're going to benefit, you might at first, but ultimately you're going to get fucked over. MAGA has bitten the hand that feeds them. Yeah, and that was inevitable. It was never about fucking over just the liberals. They want to fuck over everybody. They want to take everybody's money. Vincent says, I thought American universities were going to form a NATO-like alliance to combat Trump. Yeah, I think I did hear that too, or at least certain regional colleges like the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten did do that. They made an agreement together. If you come after one of us, you come after all of us. So there is something like a NATO situation in some colleges, not all colleges. I wonder how he sleeps at night. He is a monster. Well, I'm sure he sleeps fine as long as somebody comes in and changes diaper twice a night. He's probably so drugged up that they just knock him out to try to take him out of the equation for the night. But we know most of these True Social posts come at 2, 3, 4 1. Even know how much he sleeps. He's so fired up on drugs that he may not sleep that much. Spacer says we also need to recognize Moldova that showed Christie over Russia. Congrats to Maya Sandu. Only Johnson and be going on the bus as soon as they finish up, which will happen over Epstein. Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm talking about this with Ed. I'm willing to bet that Mike Johnson's time as Speaker of the House is probably short. The shutdown isn't going to go well. The Epstein thing isn't going to go well. So Mike might be on the chopping block. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes up and takes his place. SNL is going to be crazy tomorrow. Bad Bunny is hosting. Oh, my God. Did you hear that? Who was it? Tommy Lauren on Fox News was talking about having a foreigner perform at the Super Bowl. Yeah, she didn't realize that Bad Bunny from Puerto Rico, and if you're from Puerto Rico, you're an American citizen. Dumbass. What a dumbass. Bruce Oster says, you're breaking up. Yeah, I've been having some trouble with the internet here. I apologize for that. We're going to go for another 10, 15 minutes, then we're going to wrap things up. Yeah, there's something definitely going on here. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Spacer says, imagine Congress gives Jim Jordan another shot at the speakership. A joke. I don't think he could ever get elected to be Speaker of the House, not with the current Republican regime. He's a dipshit. He would be worse than Mike Johnson. Hard to imagine, but he would be much worse than Mike Johnson. And, it could be, and I kind of hope it happens this way. They kick him out, and it takes a while for them to get a Speaker of the House. Because when you don't have a Speaker of the House, you can accomplish nothing in the House. Absolutely nothing in the House can be done unless you have a Speaker. So the longer it takes for them to get somebody in, if Mike Johnson gets booted out, the less they're going to be able to do. And it's interesting, these people, these Republicans in the House are terrified about the midterms because they're seeing the writing on the wall. They're seeing that it's not likely that they're going to do well in the midterms. And they um, basically have said that if the Democrats win the majority in the House, Donald Trump's presidency is essentially over. And that's true. Nothing will be done. Nothing will happen in the House other than investigations and embarrassments for Donald Trump. Certainly nothing will be passed. Anything he wants won't even be brought to the floor. They will do exactly what the Republicans have done to the Democrats for years. And this is scaring the shit out of Donald Trump. He's getting ready, if he survives that long, to be embarrassed every day for the next 2 years, which shouldn't be a big deal because he's embarrassed every day the last 8, 9 months. I mean, every time he does something, he fucks it up, so he looks stupid. I just don't know if he's so delusional he doesn't realize it, or what's going on with him. But anyhow, once again, we lose the chats. They'll probably come back here. We're getting down closer to the end of this, and we've got the weekend that we're dealing with. And it used to be that nothing happens on the weekends. Well, less happens on the weekends, but we've got some crazy shit going on. Like earlier today on Friday, we had Donald Trump and the Department of Defense. I'm not going to call them the Department of War because they're not that yet. They blew up another fishing boat in international waters outside Venezuela. I mean, this is criminal. These people aren't drug dealers. They could have sent a boat up, checked them, and decided and took them into prison. But instead, they just blow them up and say, yeah, that was a bad one, and no proof to suggest that that's true. I'm wondering why Schumer is taking a stand, because there have been murmurs of Democratic senators voting against Schumer for leader of the Democrats. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people thinking about doing that. There might be people thinking about doing that with Hakeem Jeffries, too. Maybe he's trying to show a little more strength, a little more power so he doesn't get kicked out. But for all intents and purposes, I think Schumer should be removed as leadership. We need somebody younger, stronger, somebody who can fight in the battle that we're up against right now with Donald Trump and the Republicans. Vincent says so many right-wing groups trying to claim power. Some of those like to try to take it by force. Yeah, you know, these Republicans like to talk a tough game, but when it comes down to it, they're nowhere to be found. Again, we're talking about bullies, people that want to make threats and hope that you respond and hope that you acquiesce. But when you don't, they become scared because when you start pushing them back, they have to run in fear. And that's what these Republicans will do. That's why I've always said it's more important to stand up to them and fight their fight than to just give them their way and hope it gets better, because it never gets better. Spacer says Schumer is done at this point, I think. His approval rating in New York is terrible. Anyone could claim that seat in a primary. Here's the thing. I don't think he's up for re-election until 2028. I know there's talk of AOC running against him. I think she should. I think she would easily beat him. But we're going to have to wait a while before he's up for re-election. It's a ways off as yet. So We can't even be thinking about that. We got too many more important issues in front of us that we have to deal with. That's the thing. People get upset because there's so many things going wrong, so many things happening, and it becomes insurmountable. We can't control everything. We can't fix everything at once. So let's just resign ourselves to the fact that we can't fix everything in short order. We have to deal with the biggest problem first and get that out of the way. That biggest problem right at this point is Donald Trump. We've got to somehow um, neutralize him or get rid of him one way or another. I don't know exactly how you do that, but that's our first biggest problem. First, New Jersey and Virginia, these will be the first tests since 2024 that we are finally waking up. Yeah, Virginia's got a problem. The Republicans have a problem in Virginia. It's kind of a purple state. The Democrat is running for governor against the Republican. I think she's up by 12 points. And here's the problem. With Doge and now this this federal government firing, this really affects Virginia quite a lot. People who work in Washington, D.C. or in the general federal area in that region will live in Virginia. So it's conceivable, if not already to a certain extent happening, that as many as 500 to 600,000 people will lose their jobs or have lost their jobs in Virginia. That poses a problem for those 600,000 people because Virginia is not that big a state, but it also poses problems for the government. They won't be collecting as many taxes, or the businesses. They won't be selling their goods and services anymore. Virginia could be in big trouble, and they are ripe for the taking in terms of this gubernatorial election. The Republicans are going to take the heat. They're going to take the beating for this, and the Democrats should win that. And again, when you're looking at New Jersey and you're looking at Virginia and you're looking at New York City with Mondami, when we see what happens in those places, that's going to send a strong message to Republicans and to Democrats, especially when the younger people are running. People are getting tired of the old guard, and these old guard in the Democrats, they're kind of freaking out too. The New Jersey governor Democratic candidate got doxxed, but after hearing it will backfire. The Republican candidate there and the Trump administration will face accountability on trying to rig it. Yeah, absolutely. When this is all said and done, especially an election like this, you might say, well, the DOJ won't touch them because they're siding with Donald Trump. That's not a federal crime. That's a state crime. And the state can take them to task any way they decide, whether it be indictments, prosecutions. But if there is some kind of tampering or some kind of criminality going on, it will be addressed in a state like New Jersey, which is typically a blue state, and they're going to have some problems. Not everybody has immunity, only Donald Trump. Can you have elections with the government shut down? Yes, it's happened before. We can do it. Yeah. Shutting the country down has nothing to do with the elections. Keep in mind, elections are state run, not federally run. Hi, Boomer. Did you see that awful AI video with Vought as Reaper? It's fucked up. He isn't hiding the evil much these days. No. Yeah, I did see it, and it is fucking ridiculous. It's not only evil, but it's stupid. It's childish. It's silly. But that makes an important point. Remember when Doge was going after everybody and Elon Musk was ahead of the charge? What happened to Elon Musk? Elon Musk's company took a pounding, and he's not recovered from it yet. Everybody went after Elon Musk and hated Elon Musk. And this is why I've said, with regards to the shutdown and the potential firings of federal employees, know who the enemy is, and that's Russ Vought. Russ Vaught's some guy sitting in an office someplace that nobody really knows much about. He has no immunity. He's wide open. He could be doxxed if somebody had a mind to. So maybe we need to focus on those people, address those people, and go after those people uh, through protest or what have you, and take them down. It would be easy to take down somebody like Russ Vaught because he's pretty weak by comparison to Donald Trump. Cuomo's taking notes from Trump, which will be his downfall. Absolutely. He's making AI videos of himself climbing skyscrapers and driving subways. Mondami is going to win. Yeah, Mondami is leading by a long shot. He lost to Mondami in the primary. How he thinks he can run and maybe get some Republican votes is just absolutely ridiculous. Um, it's silly. Incandescent light, Elon who? Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, that's the thing about this current culture. We have these horrible events or these crazy events, and people think, oh, this is going to be the downfall, like the Charlie Kirk situation. Now, I said about Charlie Kirk that I didn't know much about him before he was assassinated. I don't know much about him after the assassination. He was never consequential to me, he was always inconsequential. And I said, if you're worried about this Charlie Kirk thing, just wait 2 weeks and nobody will fucking care. Nobody cares about Elon Musk. Nobody cares about Charlie Kirk. We got bigger fish to fry at this point. And this is how it goes with Donald Trump. There's always something worse on the horizon. Funny part is Republicans are trying to get Sliwa to drop out, but his ego is keeping him in. Funny to see Republicans having trouble with their own nominee. Yeah, Sliwa. There, there's a piece of work. Now, I remember Curtis Sliwa from like the 80s, 70s or 80s. Um, he was the leader of something called the Guardian Angels, which was this vigilante group that went around New York City trying to stop crime, and he was trying to build a reputation on this. The only problem with it is Curtis Sliwa is a criminal motherfucker, and he was getting busted for things in the process. So now he's grown older. Maybe he's thinks he's more accepted. But everybody in New York City knows who the fuck he is. He's not going to get elected. A Republican's not going to get elected in New York City, especially some dumb fuck like Curtis Sliwa. Adelita Grijalva needs to be seated immediately. That should be litigated in federal district court ASAP. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the Democrats need to remember this. They need to remember this because when they get power, and if there's a special election and a Republican needs to be seated, we need to delay it as long as they delay it. Now, Mike Johnson said he was going to do it next week. We'll see if that happens. But there is no legal reason for him to be able to do this. And it certainly is against the Constitution and potentially a crime. So, yeah, he should be investigated and prosecuted. Spacer Sliwa is a wild card. Republicans should have seen this coming. Yeah, I can't even believe that they're allowing Sliwa to be a candidate. That's the best they can come up with in New York City. The best Republican in New York City to run for mayor is Curtis Sliwa? For fuck's sake. I mean, this guy is a clown at the same level of Donald Trump. He's an idiot. He's been a failure at every turn. He's weird. He's a criminal. He's corrupt. Yeah, let him run Curtis Sliwa. You know, see, that's one of the problems the Republicans have going forward. They're going to run Trump fans against our Democrats. And these fuckers are just goofy and crazy. They don't do well against Democrats because they're wild card. And Curtis Sliwa is a perfect example. Michael says her constituents don't have any representation right now, and that's not constitutional. You're absolutely right. That is unconstitutional. We have taxation with representation, and those people have no representation. They elected a representative. She won by 40 points, so it's not like there's any question as to whether she won or not. Clearly she did. Mike Johnson is just kind of a pussy-ass bitch, and he's trying to delay it as much as possible because he doesn't want to make a decision. But he's going to have to do it. I would suggest that he's going to have to get it done this week or there's going to be some real fucking problems. Bruce says, Sliwa, hell, I thought he was dead. Yeah, so did I. Honestly, I didn't think he would be still alive or at least in the conversation at all anymore. He's made a fool of himself over the decades, and how he finds himself as a Republican candidate for mayor of New York City just tells you how weak and how fucked up the Republican Party is in New York City. Mondami's going to win. And as I said before, this is going to drive the Republicans crazy because he's Muslim and the Israelis don't like him. And all the Republicans and many of the Democrats are in the pocket of in the pocket of the Israelis with AIPAC. And that is one of the most concerning things I think about now. I kept hearing about this AIPAC, this lobbying group that put money in Congress members' pockets, and I thought, oh, those fucking Republicans. And then I come to find out that, in fact, many Democrats, if not most Democrats, are getting money from AIPAC. Think about how troubling that is. Money from a foreign country is going into the pockets of virtually everybody in our Congress. That doesn't smell very good, does it? Doesn't sound right. And that's something that has to be addressed too. The whole money situation in politics has to be taken out of there. It's done no good and caused a lot of corruption at this point. Mondami wins, it's going to upset the Republicans because they don't like somebody that happens to be brown and maybe Muslim to be mayor of a big city like New York. But you know who it also bothers is the Democrats. The old guard Democrats don't like to see these young socialist Democrats get into office because these more centrist people, again, they have big lobbyists in their pockets and they don't want to go against them. But I will tell you this, as far right as we have gone in the last even 8 or 9 months, we're going to have to go far left to right this ship. Think of it this way. We give money to wealthy people. Those wealthy people invest into portfolios and they expect a return on investment. But when it comes to doing things for the middle class, the Republicans, some Democrats, and of course the oligarchs say, oh no, we can't afford that. Understand this. Most of the taxes that come into the government come from the middle class. So is the middle class sending the money to government to cover all the expenses that this government incurs, whether it's legitimate or not? Wouldn't you expect if we invest in our country that we should get a return on investment, something in return for the money that we pay? Republicans, some Democrats, and oligarchs say no. You just give us the money, we'll reap the benefits, and you get nothing. That's not right. That doesn't even make any fucking sense. So this is what we have to change in government right now. We're paying a lot in taxes, all of us, cumulatively. We deserve a return on investment on something and not just keep telling us that, well, we can't afford that, so we'll just give it to the rich guys and hopefully they'll do something good with it. And we know that's not going to happen. They are going to do something good with it. We've been dealing with this for 45 years and it hasn't worked. That's silly to continue to do it. Republicans know better. They know it's just a grift for the wealthy people, for the wealthy donors, but they perpetuate it because they want to keep the money coming to their pockets. This is what we have to stop. We have to set it straight, and the only way to do it is for us to push back as hard as we can. Keep talking, keep controlling the market by punishing people who are working against us by not buying their products and services. We have the power. We do have the power. It's just a matter of using that power for what we need it to do. All right. I'm going to wrap things up here for the Substack Live and the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you all for joining me in spite of the problems we've had with the chats. Thank you so much for participating, asking questions, and making comments. That makes this so much easier to do, and I truly appreciate it, you folks being involved. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.